So our story begins with King Sadala having just emerged from the Pyramid of Power, walking over towards Kefla and Kaba, who stand eagerly waiting, and of course weakened after being beaten by Vegito. Father, you look different. Kefla, his half-daughter, naturally left near speechless, not only at the sudden arrival of the king, but his change in appearance too. While Kaba, in synchronization, lets out, King Sadala, he's changed. Did he finally perfect it? The king, though, with an emotional face, just remains with his eyes locked onto the two, not saying a word, and it's unclear if the years of training had changed his very personality until... My daughter, look at you. I'm proud. With a calm and collected smile, the king softly grabs onto the fused warrior's shoulder and says lovingly, So this is what you achieved. I'm impressed. You've done well, and by the looks of it, you did a real number on him. Now rest up. I'll deal with him now. What? But despite the king's heartfelt words, the totally void of emotional intelligence Kefla just grows comedically to Uzaru-like in stature and screams at her father, You deal with him now? Don't give me that! I lost an arm out here because you took so long! What kind of father are you? You haven't even asked me if I'm okay! And what's with your missing beard? You look like my little brother now! Ugh! I'm so done with you! Leaving the king with a nothing short of completely awkward and defeated face as he just stares into the distance, whispering under his breath, Weird. I thought she'd think this was cool. I wanted to surprise you. But just as easily, the king's face then returns to normal. Now looking at Kaba, he says, Never mind. Since when do women ever know what really looks good on a man? Right, Kaba? Anyway, what's the situation here? Is this foreign king just as strong as we thought? Or is he just another weakling Champa overreacted about? No. But as Kaba struggles to get back onto his feet, he can only grumble until getting up and looking over to the king with dead eyes. No, he's stronger. Way stronger than we ever thought or prepared for. I don't think this is even his final form. But on hearing this, in probably a surprise to most of us, the King of the Universe 6 Saiyans seems overjoyed as he lets out, Perfect! Just the way I wanted. After all, we both know this isn't my final form either. Vegito, meanwhile, who still has his arms folded, watching on as the trio converse, just calls out impatiently, Excuse me? Sorry to interrupt the reunion, but who exactly might you be? You seem a little familiar. Oh, is that so? The king, looking out the corner of his eye after being addressed, then responds, All in good time, my friend. Before turning his body to face Kefla and Kaba and continuing, I'll be right back. Just need to have a little chat with the kids, alright? After which, instantly, the king then turns his back to Kefla and Kaba and outstretches his arms to either side. One arm in front of Kefla and the other in front of Kaba. But neither seem shocked or surprised, as if they'd prepared for this very moment their entire adult life. As the king says, Alright, it's time, you two. Begin the ritual. as meanwhile, a thoroughly pleased and calm as anything Champa looks to his angel attendant in the background, saying snidely, "You see, Vados, what did I tell you? The Oracle Fish never lies. The plan is finally starting after all this time. Everything we prepared for is finally coming to fruition. Now do your part and heal them at once, Vados." As Vados instantly, even while in the middle of responding, "Yes, my lord, as you wish," begins vanishing from the spot. In a flash, reappearing behind Kaba, Kefla, and the king, saying in a hushed tone, "Okay, you two, stand still. This will only take a moment." As immediately, both Kaba and Kefla become enveloped in a shining, bright white light that takes the two by surprise with what it does to them. Within an instant, Kefla's energy is seemingly perfectly restored, transforming back into her full power Super Saiyan form, while Kaba too becomes engulfed back in his mysterious white aura, raging in red lightning, as even he looks down to his hands in shock and comments, "Our powers, they're back! Kefla, we can do it now!" And with that said, the two give each other a nod in silence, as they had already discussed beforehand just what would happen in this situation, before simultaneously each places a hand on the shoulder of the king in front of them, as all three begin to then surround themselves in a calm aura that begins to move in one direction, from the youngsters to the king himself, as the king with a smirk comments, "There you go, give me your energy. Your king will put an end to all of this." They must be joking. Both of them are giving him their energy? That's the big plan? How pointless. There's only so much a body can take. This is no Super Saiyan God ritual. All giving them their share of energy will only serve to marginally increase whatever strength he already has. Amateurs. We Saiyans in Universe 6 learned that a long time ago. Not true, Saiyan! But as Vegito disregards the efforts of the three Saiyans, the God of Destruction of Universe 6 has something to add, saying sharply, "Don't compare what you scummy Saiyans from Universe 7 can do to what our Saiyans can do. The king is no ordinary Saiyan, and definitely no run-of-the-mill everyday piece of trash like you." Before, with a more relaxed tone, as if truly believing the words coming out his mouth, he looks to the sky and begins explaining, "This king is like no other. He is the warrior the Oracle Fish foretold to be the strongest in our universe's history. The true successor to the God of Destruction throne. A Saiyan born with the highest potential of his entire species. Not by talent, but by the number of so-called S-cells within his body." Huh? S-cells? This last line suddenly sending a shiver of shock and confusion through Vegito's entire body as he wonders, Where have I heard that before? Looks like your memory has wavered, Master. As Kaba, looking coldly at his former teacher, continues, S-cells. S-cells are what we Saiyans all have in our bodies in differing amounts, Master. It's what enables us to transform, and they are said to be in greater amounts in those with gentler hearts. Us Saiyans from Universe 6 were always predisposed to have way higher amounts than the evil planet-conquering Saiyans of your universe. It's why Kale, Caulifla, and myself were able to transform just by focusing on the tingles on our backs, while you had to go through far more. But even us three only have 25% of the maximum S cells a Saiyan body can have. The scientists say even that is 10% more than the Saiyans of your universe, though. But the king possesses 99%. To which a now proudly smiling Kefla would add, and with that many S cells, Goku, he's going to be able to use all of our power together. Who knew my old man would finally become useful for something? What? Vegito, hearing this, is initially full of shock, not realizing the warrior before him was anything special, questioning, combine your full powers together? So like a fusion, but between 4 different Saiyans? As he contemplates on the monstrosity that these 4 could produce until... Amazing! As from what first started as a small smirk, soon turns into a full-on crazy laugh. As in a twist, Vegito is completely excited by the idea, saying, I was hoping this universe could give me more of a challenge. This will be perfect! Might make me test out even a quarter of my abilities. Now stop all the talking and... bring it on! Show me your power, fools! As in a sudden fit of rage and impatience, Vegito overflows with a hunger for battle that takes over his mind. The sudden switch in enthusiasm, though, begins to intimidate the gods themselves, who watch on, as with a nervous look on Champa's face, he comments to his angel, wait, why is he excited, Vados? Why is this Saiyan not scared? Is he an idiot? To which a cautious Vados, with a sweat drop coming down her face, just whispers back in a fake confidence, don't worry, Lord Champa. This must just be their typical Saiyan bravado. Vegeta-san was exactly the same. He'll think twice once the king unleashes his true power. I can promise you that. But just as Vados says that, suddenly both Kefla and Kaba are reverted back to their base forms, as if now completely out of energy. As Kefla says, oof, that was quick, while Kaba whispers, It's done, King. About time. As the king, now having seemingly taken every drop of energy from the duo, looks to Vegito with veins bulging and pulsating all over his body, and lets out, sorry for the wait, my fellow king, but I'm done talking with the kids. I'm all yours. And with that, without a word more of a goodbye, King Sadala walks off towards the God Killer, leaving Kaba and Kefla behind. And as he gets closer and closer, only a smirk begins to grow on his face, as inside he thinks, I wonder if he has any idea how long I've waited for this moment. God Killer! As towering considerably over Ultra Vegito, King Sadala appears right in front of the folded-armed fused Saiyan, staring right into his eyes domineeringly, unfearful in any way at all, as black lightning roars only inches away from him. Looking up calmly and unfazed, Vegito would then say, "So, are you going to stare at me all day with those big yellow eyes? Or are you going to show me something? Where is this new power? I don't sense anything different about you. Can we get this over with? I have a date with a certain kitty." To which the king, just looking down without even the slightest bit of a smile, replies, "Just as I would expect of fellow Saiyan royalty. Just as impatient as my brother once was. But no matter, if you want to cut to the chase and see my true power, then this is one request I can grant you, Vegito." As without a moment to waste, the king then suddenly begins gritting his teeth madly, his nostrils flaring up as veins even appear on his cheeks. His arms first bulking up massively as his fists close so tight, traces of blood begin to seep, and his back now growing in size to insanity levels, as with a thunderous roar, he groans, as aura and wind begin to emanate all around his body, affecting the very planet itself with his transformation. The ground beneath him splitting in all directions as if the surface itself can't withstand his energy. And from outside, the planet once again begins to visibly shudder and quake. This is even worse than Kaba! As Vegito, standing across from the king, can only step back slightly as he struggles to keep his balance on the now falling apart planetary surface. But as we zoom in on Vegito's face, the true level of his surprise is seen as he comments, "His power level, it's skyrocketing like nothing else! But how far will he go?" An almost in direct answer to Vegito's thoughts, the king roars even louder, signaling a second part to his transformation as his power level now already surpasses both Kefla's and final Cabba's, with the king yelling with his eyes locked onto Vegito, "Witness the true power of the Saiyans!" Vegito, who was literally right near him, on the other side, having just felt the power of the king's sudden burst in energy, is taken by surprise, and then immediately flung across the battlefield, flying high in the air. Until eventually regaining himself, still covering his body from the vast swathes of air and pressure swarming at him from the king, as he then comments, "Now it's going up even faster! But his form isn't even changing! Has he even begun, or are we just getting started?" And just as Vegito wondered why nothing is changing appearance-wise with the king, a change begins to happen, but in the most unexpected of ways. As suddenly, a tail begins to sprout forcefully from behind the Saiyan, and it slowly then reaches its full length as the king, crouched over in body, becomes surrounded in a ball of aura that remains ominously slow moving, and the king's hair turns from black to white and grows massively in length. His arms and chest now unbelievably becoming surrounded in a white fur too, as if his hair is spreading like a virus through his body, until, from behind, we see the final full length of his long white strands take shape. And in the end, King Sadala reaches his final form. His hair spiked up uncontrollably in white, his body covered in silver fur, and his tail out in full force, All the while, he bears the same crimson red eyes as Kaba, but in this form, he is no final King Sadala or Beast King. More so, he resembles a certain legendary form from decades ago. And in the aftermath, the fully transformed King Sadala would just stare silently towards Vegito, not breaking his glance while ravenous sparks of randomized electricity encompass his body. But behind, where Cabra and Kefla look on, the tall stature of their royal king in an all-new form is clear to see. Surrounded in bursting aura is enough to leave both in a state of paralysis and shock until... King Sadala! He did it! He really did it! While Kefla, in a stark contrast, yells out, "Father! You damn old geezer! I knew you were good for something! Get him, Dad!" And similarly, Champa, now completely full of delight, raises his fist in excitement and lets out, "It's done, Vados! We won! I told you it would go down like this. The Oracle Fish never lies. Remind me to get some extra nice fish food once we're done here." While Vados, also with a more calm and quietly confident look, just responds, "Yes, my lord. As usual, your wisdom never fails you. This king has followed through just as you said. Surely, the strongest mortal to ever exist." What is this? But in a complete switch, when we come back to Vegito, the thoughts and feelings are thoroughly different, as a wide-eyed now Vegito begins thinking, "Whoa! He's completely different! He looks like some sort of Super Saiyan! That tail! That fur! No way! He looks just like those two guys from before! Almost like a Super Saiyan 4! As within the confines of Vegito's mind, he begins to think back to GT Goku and Vegeta, who he had met previously, until... Huh? No way! Vegito's face becomes even more shell-shocked as he then puts the pieces of the puzzle together and yells, "Could this be a Super Saiyan 5? This power, it has to be! It's unbelievable! And again accessed with a tail! Just how far could we Saiyans really go without God forms?" But meanwhile, the king finally breaking his silence, looking down at the palm of his hand as he says in self-admiration, "Looks like you finally caught on to what you're going up against. This is another level to you, friend. This is the true ultimate form of the Saiyans. The power that can only be achieved by those with 100% of their Saiyan potential unlocked. 100% SL. And this tale just gave me my final percent." Before changing his expression once more and looking to Vegito callously yelling, "Now bow down to the true king, Vegito!" As a supremely confident god in the background then points his finger as if controlling a lapdog and yells, "Scared now, God Killer? Allow me to savor the fear in your voice as you're beaten to a pulp. Prepare to meet your untimely fate to a fellow Saiyan, just as my brother had to. Go now, King! Destroy him!" as the king, as if truly bent by the need to Champa, rushes in immediately with a ferocity that would make even Broly proud. As a seemingly alarmed Vegito just stands paralyzed still in the distance. And once we look closer, the true apparent fear is written all across the God Killer's face in the midst of the legendary Super Saiyan 5, as he can only mutter out, "No! No! The ultimate Saiyan! How can I be that? Psych!" Until out of nowhere, Ultra Vegito's face shifts into one of psychotic demonic nature. His eyes bulged open and vein-stricken, as a grin like no other then emerges on his face despite the monster that approaches him. And in an odd scene, as the Super Saiyan 5 King reaches right before the God Killer, Vegito remains standing motionless, not even attempting to shy away in any capacity. And eventually, the incredibly powerful punch then makes its move, landing flush hard with a thunderous impact on Vegito's face. Ha ha ha! How's that, Vegito? Now I know that had to hurt. Is this the power you so desired to see? And Vegito, who remains still with the king's fist firmly imprinted in his face, remains eerily silent, as if perhaps knocked out standing until... What power? You're kidding, right? I thought we were warming up. Huh? Leaving the king at first taken aback in confusion until... What is that? As the king pulls his arm back in fear and disbelief, having realized not only that his attack did nothing, but also after seeing a certain scene on Vegito's face in the aftermath of his attack. As ironically, left behind is in fact the God Killer's signature black eye with white iris, now signaling his activation of the stolen God and angel powers within his body. With his arm fully pulled back, the domineering king of the Saiyans then trembles in the presence of Vegito, muttering, "How? Why didn't you move? Why aren't you damaged? I am the ultimate Saiyan!" To which Vegito, only angling his head, says back, "Ultimate Saiyan? Maybe in your universe, but you don't even hold a candle to the weakest Saiyan back in mine." Before holding his head back upright, and with a slight grin that would scare anyone, he lets out, "But if holding onto that title means so much to you, you can have it. After all, I'm no Saiyan anymore. I am a God Killer." Huh? As suddenly, a look of fear and shock comes across the king's face, but it doesn't seem to be because of Vegito's words, but instead, something much worse. As unbelievably to the king, an apparition of the former God of Destruction candidate, Toppo, instantly appears behind the king, and bear hugs him with the same intensity he had given to Goku in the past. This time, the grip being so tight that the king immediately coughs out blood. Toppo's power, of course, being amplified with Vegito's own strength. But even as the king struggles to breathe under the bone-crushing grip of Toppo, Vegito himself doesn't seem to be done, as he yells, "Sorry, but it's time for that date of mine." As Vegito's whole body becomes surrounded by an eerily mysterious energy before... Huh? No! Stop! In a scene that harks back to what Kefla had done to Vegito last chapter, Vegito blasts King Sadala with a tsunami of energy that seemingly instantly vaporizes him. The aftermath resulting in a massive explosion as the beam hits the ground. But in the distance, the level of control Vegito must have actually used is revealed, as though the Topo apparition had been destroyed by its own creator, the near lifeless but still just about breathing body of the king is seen floating in the distance. As when we zoom in, we see the extent of the damage, with the king now back in base form, covered in his own blood, and his pupils now missing from having rolled back to his head. Slowly but surely, the king's near-dead body would continue to descend down back to the ground with a deafening silence. Before landing brutally by the base of his neck, his heavy legs almost reaching his face uncontrollably. Until finally, with his whole body stretched out and motionless, the king remained unconscious, only able to mutter as his final words, "God Killer." "Father! King Saiyan!" And in a sharp scene, the reactions of the 4 remaining Universe 6 warriors paint a shocking picture, as Kefla, Kaba, Champa and Vados all stare in disbelief and consternation as they try to take in that not only was their king and trump card defeated and on the verge of death, but also in such convincingly effortless fashion. But as the adrenaline of the shock passes, the realization and fear of the situation shudders through Champa as he screams, "No! No! The king can't be defeated! Not like that! Vados, tell me this is an illusion!" But curiously, as Champa calls to his angel attendant, only an unusual silence is given back. "Vados?" Leading to the god to turn around furiously, continuing, "Are you listening to me, angel? How dare you?" "Huh? Vados?" But suddenly, as Champa turns around, a mystery sight is in front of him, silencing him in the spot as his body goes stiff in shock. But what could it be? Vados! And finally, we see what the shocking scene is, as on the ground, a completely lifeless body lays flat on the surface. And once we get a closer look, it is revealed to be none other than Vados, now looking like an empty, wrinkly flap of skin on the ground, clearly the victim of Vegito's cell tail. Vados! Champa, who at this point knows not what else to say, can only incessantly yell out the name of his former angel attendant, until finally, "Calm down, kitty!" From behind, the one voice that Champa didn't want to hear, the one voice that would bring shivers down his very spine, calls to him and him alone. And as his pupils move to the corner of his eyes to confirm who it is, to us and everyone around, it is revealed to be none other than Ultra Vegito. And just as predicted, in the middle of retracting his cell arm too. The very arm which had just absorbed the very life force of his own angel. Why you? But as the hopelessness of the situation hits Champa, he reaches his fight or flight moment and chooses to become enraged, turning his body to get his own chance at taking down the God Killer. But in the end, he doesn't even get a chance, as brutally, with a powerful thrust, Vegito penetrates the torso of Champa with his entire arm, creating a massive, gaping hole in the process. And shockingly, once we look inside the body of the god, we see Vegito's own hand is grabbing the very heart of Champa, pulsating as the heart beats faster and faster from the god's apparent fear. What are you doing? And with the god being allowed to say a few more words, his last ones only just inquire what sadistic thing Vegito was now doing to them. I'm doing what I should have done a long time ago, Garfield. I'm making sure you never harm another innocent mortal ever again. Your energy is mine! As suddenly, in a rush of trickling energy, the very god key Vegito absorbs through Champa comes straight through his heart in an instant, being drained completely until... With a sudden and violent closing of his fist, Ultra Vegito bursts the heart of the god in one swoop, instantly ending his life. And in the wake, Vegito then roughly removes his arm, leaving the truly lifeless Champa now standing on bodily instinct alone, wobbling more and more uncontrollably until... Champa's deceased body then falls to the ground without a murmur, poetically next to his angel attendant Vados once again. And without a thought more, now done finally with his next godly victim, Vegito raises his arm to do the one thing we all know he must. Hakai! Yelling the chant of the destroyers with passion, with just as much conviction as he did from day one. And as expected, both of the bodies of Vados and Champa then vanish immediately, erasing to nothing, never to be seen or heard from again in the living world. Champa! No! Why? This of course leaving the traumatized Kefla and Kaba, who both have lost all their energy, having given it to the king earlier, now just standing powerless, watching as everything around them metaphorically crumbles away. Finally, over halfway through the list. Only 5 gods and angels till the big day. It's time to get a move on. Leaving the smirking Vegito to think on what he's just done and what's next. While little does he know, in the distance, behind him in the sky, a mystery figure appears watching. Godly in nature, but humanoid in appearance. Could it be the Grand Priest? But no, in the sky, finally in the same scene as Vegito, watching him from afar, is in fact Goku Black, looking down with one hand on his hip and a serious look as he thinks, now, do my eyes deceive me? Or is that the fusion of Goku and Vegeta down there? The heroes of Universe 7 now slaughtering the gods and angels? Huh, how things can change. Damn fickle mortals. As he begins to think back to a simpler time, when Vegito Blue fought to defeat the original God King.